Hello, folks. Welcome to the EdgebyRS Academy. I hope all of you had a good and a profitable week. For today's recording, I'm going to talk about Tuesday's session, that is 5th of March. Now, the reason I picked that session is actually twofold. The first reason is it was a trend day down, and typically, what I understand, a lot of traders struggle on trend days. So, since the effort of producing this recording is to help everyone out there, so it definitely makes sense to cover Tuesday as opposed to any other day. The second reason to cover this is I strongly believe in the advantage of repeating things, because the more you repeat it, the more it becomes part of your subconscious, which means that as you learn these nuances, these elements that I teach you, and as you see them happen in front of you, then it is nothing but second nature to you, and at some point you will be able to trade such sessions with a lot more confidence. So, before I get into this session, just a quick word. A lot of traders have asked me what's the difference between the EdgebyRS Discord and Academy. Now, Discord is where I share live trades. I'm providing live commentary. I provide daily zones, that is support resistance, where you can take those trades. And these zones are automatic for most part. Whereas the Academy is really hardcore focused on education. Now, not to take away that on Discord there isn't much education. In fact, a lot of it is driven by education. But just put it this way: it's more advanced. What anyone learns in Discord is more like high school, and the academy is more like university, right? By default, just more advanced with a lot more content. And as I move through this couple of weeks, I intend to even add more videos. So every week, the idea is very simple. I'll be releasing at least one recording for everyone. That's the public. Everyone can have a view at it. But if you want to access additional recordings, which I do produce every week as well, for that you will need to subscribe on Substack. Now, to just make it a more value added proposition, the fee is quite accessible. And not only do you get access to the academy content, but you also get access to the macro outlook, where I talk about higher time frame technical analysis, and how to think of the current development as it is, as well as soon I'll be probably this weekend I'll be releasing even select stocks that you could invest in your portfolios, etc. So again, it's just a value added proposition, and if it is of interest to you, then you can go ahead and subscribe on Substack. Or if you do like to get involved with daily trades and see how it goes from there, then that's your second alternative. So I hope this makes things really clear. And without wasting much time, let us now get into Tuesday's session. So this is my typical chart that you see every week. Everything is annotated here with certain screenshots to show you how we did it over at Discord, and also talking about how the weekly plan came into play right at the bottom here, where I talk about buyers will seek to hold 51, 14, 24. So as always, before we get into any session, right, what do we want to see is what's the kind of picture that the market is painting for us. What are the clues that market has given to us, right? So it's very straightforward. On Monday, we found resistance at the weekly zone. So if you go back to my weekly chart, which I shared with you on Sunday, you will realize that I had marked a zone as resistance, which spanned from 51.48 all the way to 51.60s. Of course, in Discord, as I enter the session, I always try to narrow down the range, just tweak them a little bit for much more precise entry, which was boiled down to 51, 56, 61. So on Monday, it was very clear to us that we had to take the short, and because the resistance triggered, we took the short, and it played out wonderfully for us. So what we know is on Tuesday, weekly resistance worked. sellers have stepped in. Second, as you enter Tuesday, what do you start realizing? It was a consistent grind down into Asia and subsequently the EU session. By the time we had entered the US pre-market, we were already staring at a balance breakdown. Now, if you recall my earlier recordings, I've spoken about this very balance range multiple times. It was the same balance range top 5120s, which I remember that we had shorted at 5117 is where we had shorted back then. It was a Friday if I'm not mistaken, but yes, we had shorted and I had shared it with you. So back here, so what we were witnessing is a balance breakdown. Now, this wasn't just a balance breakdown. This was a balance breakdown on the back of a potential gap down. Now, this is where every trader must realize, acknowledge that, okay, this is just not a grind down. This has actually made a structural shift. There's a structural change, and that is we are below the balance as well as gapping lower. Now, that is sellers being in control. So now how I typically title this is sellers are in 2x control, because we've got two elements confirming to us that sellers are actively present. And as you see, as soon as we opened at 5116.50, you can observe we barely found any interest above. Now, this is where your gap and balance rules come in. What does the gap rules state? In this current context, the gap rule states that if price is below the open, go with the gap. If price is above the open, think inventory correction, which is target gap fill. So in this instance on Tuesday, not only did we open, like I said, below prior day's low on a gap, but we were also below the balance, which means that even if there was any marginal move above the open, it actually meant nothing. Why? Because we still had to get past the hurdle of the balance stop. Until then, by default, we want to take any sort of recovery that we see with a grain of salt. That said, on Tuesday, we had actually no recovery. We barely saw 7 points above the open and again flushed lower. So that's where we took our short. It was a live short that I called out based on gap rules, based on balance rules. You see, again, I did share my reasons, applying gap rules, looking into the balance, etc. So again, my live commentary was very, very clear that I'm looking short, and I even explained why so. So that way, the reason for even putting that one word of explanation is that when you take a trade and you know why you took the trade, your confidence to hold is much greater. And that's what I really try to always put forth, that, you know what, know the reason, because when you know the reason, when you know the balance rules and how they work, then you already know what sort of targets you can actually achieve. You know, a lot of traders are like, I took my 5 points and went home. Sometimes you want to ask yourself, if I'm going to put in hours of work to identify a zone, and if that zone has a potential of 20 points, why am I exiting at 5? Now, I'm not saying that is wrong, but all I'm suggesting is if there is more juice to squeeze, squeeze it, right? Because on bad days, and I'm sure there are some of them, on bad days, that extra juice is always going to be of use to you. So again, gap rules into play, balance into play, you short, we shorted, and all the way through down to 5,064.72, which was our daily support. Now, of course, I got out of this trade at 5,092. I had called it, guys, I'm fully flat, I'm done, because that was my target using the weekly plan. If you read my weekly plan, I clearly stated that I was looking a retest of 87.92, which is 5,087.92. I got that retest. I was done. I'm like, oh. Now, the thing is that the moment you see this balance breakdown, instantly you want to start asking yourself, okay, what are the balance rules suggest? The balance rules suggest that we can find a rotation all the way to the halfback, and after the halfback, we can aim towards the balance bottom. Now, we got to the halfback, and that's where we had the IB range formed as well. Now, this is the tricky part. Let's say you did try to go long at the balance halfback, at the IB low, but observe lack of traction consistently on 30 minutes. You cannot find a single full body acceptance above the IB low. Now what does that tells you? Pressure. And eventually buyers failed to find bid here, sellers took control and accelerated all the way to our daily support at 64.72. Now, why this support became even more important? If you observe quickly, the IB range was about 26, 27 points. And if you just do a 100% extension, we come down to 5068. It actually validated the support zone where we could then really just observe price action and engage. Ultimately, IB failed. That was your next opportunity to look for shorts with the awareness that you were going to short right into 50-60s, 50-70s or 50-50s, right? So let's just make it a 20-point important range where we have that cluster of support. So if you look left, you've got a lot of bounces that have taken place between 60s and 70s. So any short following the failure of IB low meant having that awareness that 70 onwards, 50-70 onwards, buyers could step in. Textbook short rotated down right then and there at 8:30 give or take UK time. I stepped in and I said, guys, long at 50.63, and I acknowledged it is risky because I was essentially catching a knife, but the opportunity was too compelling. Now, there's a reason why I caught this knife. Now, this is something that I'm going to be talking about over this weekend in another recording, which will only be available to the Substack subscribers, right, who are subscribers to the EdgebyRS Academy. I'm actually going to talk about what gave me the confidence and why that long, even though risky, and I say it was risky because it could have cut through, right, maybe by 10 points or so, just to test the balance bottom, but I would still be long or look to recycle my longs again. And again, I'm going to talk about this in much more detail in that next video, which will be released over the weekend. So again, we stepped in, we caught this knife, and ultimately got paid by a full rotation back to the balance stop. So far in these 13 minutes, you've learned the importance of building a story. The story began from Monday, and now this is where I repeat so that it all comes together for you. On Monday, we found resistance, weekly resistance, flushed below the balance during US pre-market, and that flush below balance was just not random. It was also a gap down, which means 2x sellers. IB low continued. Battle was present there. We left behind these really nice single prints here. So again, what does leaving these single prints? What do they mean? Intraday sellers are in control. As long as, so this is how you want to think, right? Oh, so ES is holding, give or take, struggling to reclaim the IB low. So clearly buyers are absent. Also, what's important is that single prints are being protected. Now, this is when you want to start thinking, oh, could this be a double distribution day to the downside? Because if they're started to protect the single prints post IB and IB low is struggling, which means upon confirmation on this breakdown, I could be short and looking for a equal give or take move to the downside, which is your 100% IB extension, where we ultimately stepped in over at Discord. So this is how you form a story. Now, once this story is clear, your confidence to execute is at a different level. You're able to probably bank more than those 5, 7, or 10 points that you look for, or at least hold in some runners understanding the overall context. Now, again, I'll take you back to my another video which I had released. Again, I don't recall when, but very recently. I spoke about V-shaped recoveries. It's very important you understand the character. Now, observe, if we flushed all the way down, this is a V-shaped recovery. So let me just quickly highlight this for you guys. So this was a flush down and back up again to the balance stop. Okay, I'm not too sure if this is visible to you guys, so I'm just going to quickly change the color to white. I'm going to thicken this thing. Right, this is a V-shaped recovery. Now, observe next what happens on the following day. We have a look above trap and a higher low is formed during RTH. Ignore this action. This was overnight. Let's just skip this. But we formed a higher low. Ultimately, just look what happens on Thursday. The exact same thing that happened on a Tuesday. This time, it wasn't a true gap up, but a value gap up. The value of Wednesday's session value area high, if I'm not mistaken, was at 51.22. Again, you guys can cross-check that, but it was around the 51.20s, and we were value gapping higher on the back of a V-shaped recovery, and again, US pre-market breaking out of the balance. And this is why yesterday on Twitter, just a second. And here's my Twitter page where before the open at 1:30, I am telling you, don't be reckless. Join the trend, don't fight it. So you see, I'm pretty clear with you guys as to what needs to be done. And I was able to say that because of the character of this V shape, because US pre-market was breaking out of the balance, exactly what it did on Tuesday, where pre-market is breaking back inside the balance. We had a true gap here, we had a value gap here, pretty identical. This is mirror, just vice versa. If you can read that, like how I did, you had 50 points for the taking. Give or take, and that is what I had told my members, guys. Just, we have 50 points on the offer. Don't try to mess it up. Stay with the trend, and that is what we did. So I hope this really helped you guys. Again, all my recordings that I share with you, this has extended beyond what I would have liked, but anyhow, all the recordings that I have shared with you actually revolve a lot around the importance of the balance ranges that I share. Now, of course, these are anchor balances. Not everyone may have access to these. Of course, the way they are formed is using the essence of market and volume profile, but of course the levels do vary as I tweak them using a confluence across other methods of mine. So I'll leave you with this. If you guys have any questions, I do encourage everyone to ask me. You can send me a tweet. You can you can send me an email. Members of Discord can of course send me a direct message, but it's very important you understand these, because trust me, it's like if you watch my recordings 10 times, do it 20. Let it sink in, because when it does, I'm telling you, it's going to be helpful to you throughout the month of March. The same levels that I talk about today will be at play for the next couple of weeks. NQ as well as ES. Now it is on to you how much work you want to put in, right? It is like if you want success, you need to put in the work, so better do put in that work. Success doesn't come to those who are lucky. It is just that the harder you work, the luckier you get. So I'll leave you with this, and I really hope you guys make full use of it. Again, I'm there. If you guys wish to join my Discord, just drop me a note, or you can get to my website 108altitude.com, sign up there, use the code level up. You will get a first month discount. If you guys don't want live trading, don't want to be involved in daily plans because you have your own plans, then you can continue your learning using the EdgebyRS Academy, which is on Substack, where it's all education driven. So that way you can learn in a noiseless environment if you want. However it works for you. And you guys have a good Friday and a good weekend ahead. See you on Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.